Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday. This week I'm going to be talking about the importance of calling your body parts by their correct names. And no, I don't just mean your finger or your toe or your elbow. I'm talking about so-called private parts. I think it's super important, and I'm gonna kind of lay out a couple of reasons why I think it's super important. But I think it's something like everyone can relate to. Like everyone has thought of these random nicknames for our private parts when we're growing up, and we don't really tend to talk about things, and it's all very awkward, and it's kind of easy to think that that doesn't really kind of mean anything, or that it's not really a big deal. But there are actually some times where it is actually really important to know the names of your body parts, particularly as children. And I'm 25 now, and I'm only now learning the proper words for some of my body parts, and that's just kind of unacceptable, I think. And so I just think it's super important that we teach kids the correct names and choose in a variety of situations, and it can just actually kind of help a lot of situations that you just wouldn't think. So let's just dive right in. So the first one is quite simple. It's literally if a child is going to the doctor or something and they just want to tell the doctor where it hurts, if they have, a tummy ache, they can say I have a tummy ache. Or if they're pain in their arm, they can say I have a pain in my arm. If they have a pain in their vagina, they can say I have a pain in my vagina. It's really just actually something as simple as that. But if a child doesn't have the words to describe their body parts, they're not going to be able to say where it hurts, you know what I mean? And that actually will prevent them from getting medical care and basic things like that. So that's just one example of where it's actually just really simple. I mean, it's just that. Being able to tell a doctor, or even, your mom or dad, where it hurts and, what can be helped, and it's really important. Then, secondly, and I'm only touching on a few points of why this is really important. There are loads more, but I'm only going to touch on a few today. The second one is actually really important, and it's in the case of child abuse or sexual child abuse. If a child doesn't know the names of their body parts, they can't tell an adult what has been done to them. If they have been, touched inappropriately or, raped or anything like that, they can't say. And it's actually it's actually a really big deal. You might not think that it's that big of an issue, but if a child is in court and they say, oh well, he touched my what's the word everyone uses, the American word, it's tushy or something, I don't even know. Even those words make me cringe. How the fact that those words are actually less embarrassing than the real words is beyond me. But if a child's in a court of law and they're saying, oh, he touched my tushy, that's not gonna hold up as much as if the child says, oh, he touched my vagina. There's a lot more weight to that, and it's super important. And as well, and one of the points I'm going to touch on in a minute is, the whole kind of how it creates shame around our body parts. If a child doesn't know the correct term, they then think there's something bad with those body parts, and they're not going to want to tell an adult if they feel like something has happened, within those body parts, or something's been done to those body parts on them. They're not going to want to talk about that because we've created these nicknames and this shame around it. And if children are taught the correct names, first of all, they can say it, if they are being abused, they can say it to the abuser, don't touch my vagina, don't touch my penis. And and I've actually read that if it actually might prevent abuse, because if the abuser knows that the child knows the correct body parts and is, empowered to speak about them, they might think, oh well, this child knows their correct body parts and they are obviously comfortable talking about these body parts with adults. So if I do something with these body parts, there's a very good chance that they might go back to their parents and say, oh, so-and-so touched this part of me, So it's actually super important. And I know, and it might seem like a very, very simple thing, but it just can have huge repercussions, both negative and positive. If you don't teach your children the correct names, it can have really bad repercussions. And if you do teach them, it can have really good consequences. And as I said, if abuse does then occur, you'd hope that, they can, if they do go tell an adult, that they can say it's the right body parts, and it will hold a lot more weight and they will be taken seriously. And it's, it's obviously abuse, abuse allegations you'd hope are taken seriously, but sometimes they are not. And obviously it's very, very hard to accuse someone. And if you have a kid saying, oh, he touched my tushy or whatever, they're really gonna not, it's not gonna hold that much weight. So it's super, super important to teach them the correct words. Thirdly, the final point I want to make is basically just around shame and, you know, sex positivity. You know, if we are teaching kids that, you know, our vaginas or vulvas or penises are something to be ashamed of, if we give them nicknames, or we kind of even you know, kind of hush the nicknames, and we, you know, we don't say like, oh, you know, we are saying that there's something shameful about them, that they should be whispered about, that they shouldn't be talked about, you know, and it creates this secrecy, and like it creates this awkwardness, and kids aren't going to want to talk to their parents or to their friends or to, you know, teachers about these body parts. And I think particularly, you know, as women and girls, we're already shamed for being sexual. We're already told that, you know, if you are sexual, that you're, you know, a slut, and if you're not sexual enough, that you're a prude. We already have this awkwardness, and by not calling our body parts by their correct names, it adds to this shame. And as well, just, you know, as they get older, and like as I said, I think all these things should start from like such an early age, and it's never too early to start talking to your kids about, you know, healthy and positive, you know, sexual experiences. And like, you know, as you get older, like even just for your own pleasure, it's so important to know your own body parts, and to be able, you know, if you're with your partner, to be able to say, you know, oh, I want you to touch this part, or I want you to do this. And like, if you can't even like say the names of those body parts as a grown-up, and that stems from being a child and, you know, having that awkwardness, then you're never gonna be able to be properly engaged with someone. You know, you're not gonna be able to enjoy sex properly, and that's like one of the whole points. And like something that's often talked about, you know, is like in biology class, like we're told about sex in the context of reproduction. You know, that's the only context we're told about. You know, we're not told about pleasure. You know, like I didn't even know what a clitoris was until a few years ago. Like, and I have one. I've had one my whole life, and I didn't even know what it was because I was never ever taught that in biology. You know, I didn't know what a vulva was. I wasn't taught what a vulva is, and a lot of people still don't know. It's not a commonly used word. You know, we say vagina, but when we actually mean vulva, because vulva is the kind of exterior genitalia, and you know, we just don't know, like, and it's just so important, and there's just like nothing shameful about it. You know, it should be the same as a leg or an elbow or a nose. You know, it should be the same. Obviously they have different functions, and you use them differently, and you show them to different people, but like there's no shame about them. And I just think it's super important to, you know, to teach these to kids, you know, early on, and like not to make them feel embarrassed about their bodies. And like, you know, particularly, you know, I'm coming from the female perspective, when we're already super self-conscious about our bodies, and you know, we're like our, you know, and just there I was about to say boobs isn't the correct term, it's breasts. You know, like, just, you know, like we're already self-conscious about like puberty and like our breasts developing, and you know, being all awkward, and we can't even talk about these things. And I just like, my just like mission in life is to have everyone just talk about things with just as if they were completely normal, because they are, and it's wonderful. And this is just one example of that, where, you know, it should be completely normal to talk about these body parts. And yeah, I just hope that, you know, like if and when I have kids someday, I hope that I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's just, you know, that's your vagina, you know, or that's your penis or your testicles, you know, even we say balls, nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. It's all groovy. So yeah, that is just today's video, quick and easy. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and share if you like it. I would appreciate that very much. And have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye!